Hello everybody, we're back here with another Frequently Asked Questions Friday. Hope you're doing marvelously well. As ever, please subscribe somewhere here or down there. And if you go to producelikeapro.com, you can sign up for the email list and get a whole bunch of free goodies and of course, be notified when we have new videos, competitions, giveaways, all kinds of fun stuff. Anyway, let's get started. What is the cost to attend a masterclass like the one he did at Blackbird Studios? Is this a private event? It's not a private event, it just sells out super quick. We have an academy, as I'm sure you know. We do all kinds of different memberships. And inside of that academy, every month we have different multi-tracks, we critique them, people talk to each other. It's a really, really amazing environment. I will send out an email initially to Academy members saying, hey, we're doing a masterclass. And before it gets out to the 200,000+ subscribers and all the people on the much larger email list, it's usually sold out pretty darn quickly. The first one we did was actually at Sunset Sound. We've done a couple at Sunset Sound. We've done one here in my private studio and one at Blackbird. We've never publicly talked about it. We've never advertised it on Facebook. We've never advertised it anywhere. They sell out immediately. We sold 20 places in Blackbird. We were initially going to do 10. We extended it to 20 because the demand was so high. It sells out massively, super quickly. Look, this is a really, really wonderful time because you can get in there, you can work with some of the biggest musicians in the world. The first one we did with Greg D'Angelo on drums. We did it with Tony Franklin on bass. It was incredible. The bass player at Blackbird, for instance, was Victor Krauss. Look him up. Insane resume. I mean, the point is we have these incredible musicians. You get to use Blackbird in particular, every single piece of equipment you could ever imagine using. All the students chose the equipment. We talked about it. We would discuss microphone placement. We set up 2 sets of drums. We did so much stuff. All of those multi-tracks were taken away and mixed by the students, also available to all the Academy members. I mean, I don't talk about it outside of that group only because, quite frankly, it sells out so quickly. So I offer it to the Academy members first. And if there was ever a time we didn't sell out, then I'd probably run Facebook ads and stuff. I don't need to do that. We don't, because it sells out really, really quickly. We actually, last time we did it, staggered it because the first one we sold out so quickly that some people were upset because understandably they were in the wrong time zone. So when they woke up in the morning, they signed up to join and it had already sold out. So we tried to stagger, placements and stuff. But we're doing another one. We're going to do one in England, not early next year, probably later next year. We're going to do one in Berlin. We're going to do them all over the place. In all kinds of different studios. Like I said, I don't normally talk about it on YouTube because there isn't any places left by the time we talk about it on YouTube. But if you want to join the Academy, you can. It's either monthly, yearly, or a lifetime membership. We offer all of those things. It's fantastic. It's an amazing group of guys and girls. It's really an amazing place. So check it out. Thanks for the great question. When do you mix on your Genelex versus small computer monitors? I have the iLouds, which we use for reference. The iLouds are much more hyped than the small Genelex. Genelex have got really good mid-range. The iLouds tend to have a little bit more of a scoopy sound. However, that's how a lot of people listen. People like boom and fizz, don't they? We all kind of do. When you're in your car driving, you want to hear lots of thump, and it's kind of nice to have a lot of highs and high mids cutting over engine noise. So it's understandable that we like that sound. So the iLouds are a good thing to reference. I don't mind listening on hyped headphones or hyped speakers because for digital pops and clicks, it's a really good, quick way to listen to your mix and see if you missed a T, an S that's a little too aggressive. They'll jump out like crazy on those speakers. We have the baby Genelex and we have the big Genelex. We spend most of our time, or a large portion of our time, on the 1032s, on the bigger Genelex. We have the Unities. I have more monitors coming. I'm a fan of quite a few different types of monitors. There are lots of really good ones out there. We're going to be talking about lots of different types in the upcoming weeks, so please stay tuned for more of that stuff. I tend to just move between the 2 sets of monitors and check on headphones. And I have 3 sets of headphones I check on. I check on the blue Lolas a lot now, the DT1990s, And of course, still use the ultrasounds specifically for like the high-end stuff to hear if there's any kind of like pops and clicks. They're really good for that. And then of course the focals, when I really just want to put my feet up and enjoy what we're doing because they're just phenomenal sounding. Anyway, variety is the spice of life. Having multiple ways of referencing is always going to do you good, but I do spend most of my time listening to 1032s. I would say 90% of the time we're listening to that, and then we're headphone referencing and maybe using the iLouds, but most of the time it is with those speakers. I know them well. I know them well in this room. So that's an important thing. Know your speakers, know your room. Half your job is done. Maybe. How do you or can you earn royalties from music as a producer these days? How do you earn royalties in the world of streaming? I have independent artists I work with, and we work out a payment system. They will give me a percentage. It varies from one artist to another. And once they've been paid back the investment they've done, I will get a percentage. That is typical. That is very, very similar to what a record company used to do. And I do it all the time. And I highly recommend it. I'm working with independent artists at the moment under that. I'm also working with major label artists at the moment under a more traditional base. There is no rules anymore. So you negotiate that up front. There are several different services you can use, such as, well, you know what, we'll talk about it another time, that allow royalties to be split. So it's difficult when it's just independent artists, but if they use the right channels, you can get paid pretty easily. And if you have a long-term relationship with that artist, you're going to be safe. They're going to show you the royalty splits. They're going to pay you. It might be pennies on a dollar, but it adds up. And if you've got multiple income sources and multiple albums out there, eventually you'll start building income. It's not going to happen overnight, even with the most successful people. It's about a career. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You're building a business, you're building a career. Invest in yourself and your time and your energy, and it will come. So just build individual relationships with artists and you'll do great. Would you venture to side with the opinion that maybe one doesn't have to be the best ears to EQ properly now that we have all this modern technology? Well, you have to hear a problem to identify it, to remove it. I think a lot of these intelligent plugins don't sound that good on the stereo bus when used aggressively. For instance, we did a live mixing stream yesterday, and we were having the discussion about boosting over cutting. And there's a lot of YouTube videos talking about cut, never boost, talk about cutting, cut. You know, and they're all very well-meaning because they've heard that, and you know, these are guys and girls that have YouTube channels that are businesses. They're not actually mixers or producers or engineers. They're maybe hobbyists who see a business opportunity making videos, and I applaud them. I think all of you should have your own independent YouTube videos. I find new people every day, and I leave comments. Diego, one of our followers, has a channel in Portuguese. Hey, Diego, I found that recently. I left some comments. There's lots of really great people out there that are really starting to help each other. So I encourage you to start a YouTube channel yourself, because you want to get yourself out there and you want to create this wider community. I think it would be fantastic if all 222,000 subscribers had their own channels and were all helping each other. I think that's the way to go. It's really build this sense of community. That's what Produce Like a Pro is about. It's about community. There is no right way or wrong way. I'm going to clarify. Yesterday, we listened to a vocal and we decided it wasn't bright enough. And somebody else said, why aren't you taking out the low mids first? So I responded, I don't hear it as having too much low mids. I hear it as not having enough high end. So I did an experiment. I put a plug-in on there and I pulled out the low mids, and then I put the same plug-in after it, and then this time boosted the high end and the high mids and the high end and made it brighter. And we level matched it and A-B'd. Guess which one sounded better? The one that was boosted on the high end, because the singer, we changed mic, but the singer had originally sung on a mic, a very expensive mic, a U47, that with his voice wasn't bringing up enough high end. He had a voice that was a little muffled anyway. We went to a different mic, a much cheaper mic, a $300 Lewitt, which had a more hyped high end, and it was perfect for his voice. Made his voice sound more even. With a microphone like a U47, which is a little bit more even in that high end, there wasn't any high end in his voice to pick up. It was very, very low. So my point is, I knew and I could hear what was wrong. It was a lack of high end. Now, if I went in there just with the philosophy of cut, 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 what would have happened is I would have, which I did, I showed, just made it sound slightly less low middly. It didn't bring out high end because the high end wasn't there. So the high end, or it was very, very low. It's nice to cut things, but don't spend hours looking for things to cut. So this is where we get a little carried away thinking that these tools are always going to save us. We need to combine, acquired knowledge of doing this with the tools. And if you can have both, if you can use the Gullfoss, for instance, with some acquired knowledge, you are going to win. Personally, I like the Gullfoss inside of the mix more than I like it on the mix. I am mixing to send something to that stereo channel that sounds phenomenal. If I'm sticking it on the end, that's the minor stuff that I want a mastering engineer to do. That doesn't mean that I might not try it every now and then. Of course, I'm not going to use it to save myself. And it goes back to that discussion we're always having about top-down mixing. I don't like that idea of loading a bunch of plugins on my master bus and then mixing into it, because you're compressing, EQing, and limiting really drastically, and you can push things super hard, and they will always sound pretty good and better than not being compressed and EQ'd. However, you want to do the minimal there and build your track up. As somebody said the other day on a live stream, you don't build the roof first and suspend it in the middle of the air. You need to build the walls up. So a combination of those ideas is best. So very long answer to a very, very good question. I don't believe you're ever going to replace your ears because you have to make music that's pleasing. Just finding problems and removing them, boosting and cutting frequencies with a really sophisticated tool, they're amazing. Those tools are amazing. I love them. I use them. I think they're fantastic. But you should still use your ears. And you should still make decisions based on taste, because there is no perfect mix. Sometimes things being too loud or a little honky, a little aggressive is wonderful. If it was all about making everything be really even and beautiful, you'd have some of the worst sounding music of all time. And sometimes it gets that way. It gets really soft and boring to listen to. So use your ears, use, more importantly, after your ears, secondly, your taste. Ears first, taste second. Any tips on making mixes sound good on tiny, horrible cell phone speakers? I can get my mixes to sound good on monitors, large speakers, and even a crappy laptop. But listening on the phone, it goes to schnizzle. I'm not sure what laptop, you say crappy laptop, because normally I have an Air. And to be honest, it sounds about the same as my cell phone. Maybe slightly, minutely, could be slightly better than an iPhone, but only marginally. So maybe we'll sort of leave that part suspended, but definitely iPhones, small speakers of any description, especially small, tiny things. And you're right. Lots of people listen to music like that. I listen to it all the time. I had a very, very famous artist I was mixing for send me mixed critiques, and I was confused when he said he couldn't hear enough kick drum. And then he told me he was listening on his laptop speakers. Wasn't getting much of the 40 to 60 hertz kind of range through his laptop. So it's been done. Look, it's all about proper high-end management, more than ever. I listened to a lot of incredibly famous mixes of the mid-90s through to the mid-2000s, and a lot of them sound absolutely dreadful on laptop speakers, appalling on earbuds, awful on cell phones. A lot of the rock, some of these big rock albums, modern rock albums of like the mid-late 90s through the early 2000s were super splashy. You all know those mixes. It's all like, it gets exciting and the cymbals are going crazy. It comes on the radio even to this day, and I'm just like, it's unbearable with the radio compression, how splashy some of those mixes got. And they do not translate at all. They don't translate. A lot of those modern rock mixes do not translate at all onto cell phones, because I pick up my cell phone and I turn on that song and it's like just going absolutely nuts. Long story, high-end detail. Really, really important to get in there and get that high-end detail right. So it means carving it out. So it's not just splashing away with tons of high-end off the electric guitars, with the acoustic guitars, with the vocal, with the overheads. Get in there and detail it out. That is where good low passing is going to come in. It's the same thing with high passing. It's why we low and high pass. We create detail. We also, in the low end with the high passing, want to make sure there's no masking, because there's nothing worse than trying to give a mix to a mastering engineer where the low end is just a big blob of nothing because the high passing wasn't done or wasn't done properly. The same thing with low passing. Low passing means high-end cut. If you've got electric guitars with 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15K, it's fine. A lot of metal goes up to 10K quite drastic, quite effectively. But once you get above that, if it's all splashing away on there, especially with kids, with younger guys and girls with really good high-end, they're going to sit there and listen to your stuff, and it's just going to be a wash of high-end. So you need to get in there and create a lot of detail. I don't mean make it all mid-rangey. I just mean get in there, find out what needs to go up to 5K and what doesn't need to go above it. What needs to go to 6, what needs to go to 7, what needs to go. Get in there and create detail, and you'll put on that mix on your cell phone, and it will translate like crazy. It will be unfreaking believable. And you will go, wow, I got created so much detail, because all those little speakers are doing is giving you a lot of high mids and a lot of high end. So that's the secret. When I hear a really, really good mix that translates all over the place, it's because it's been mixed with great high-end detail and mastered by somebody that knows what they are doing. So if you can afford it, use a good mastering engineer. And when you're using the good mastering engineer, bounce ideas off of him on her. You know, you've got people like Kim Rosen, you've got Warren Sokol, Adam Ayen. These are all amazing mastering engineers. Use them, ask them questions. Say, hey, what did you do? And they might say, hey, it was a little splashy. I had to de-ess it in the 3K range, in the 5K range, in the 7K. It got a little out of control there. You'll get that information. Armed with that information, you'll go back and you'll mix with that. That's another great reason, if you can afford it, use a real mastering engineer. They are the last means of defense before it gets to that cell phone, to that laptop, to those earbuds. And I highly recommend it. I still, to this day, if I can, I have a budget, I always push to use a real mastering engineer. So thank you ever so much for all the marvelous questions. Please keep them coming. Give a ton down below. I love this community that we have here. You are all incredibly supportive. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. If you haven't already, go and check out the Academy. You can tell there's a lot of great stuff that goes on in there. There's a really wonderful community there. Everybody is supportive in there. There is zero egos in there. And have a marvelous time recording and mixing. See you all again very soon.